one area that's kind of near my heart, two areas that I think have kind of evolved as part of this whole thing is a lot of the insurance companies requiring things like multi-factor, but then in parallel, you got identity and access management systems, and and sometimes you might get one of those shoved down your throat as part of a different project, not necessarily a security project. So your attack surface, I guess, is varying all the time. Some initiatives of yours, some of the companies to try and make things easier to use. I guess, can you give us any advice on what you see going on now with how do you effectively go about doing, multi-factors? You can do it tactically, I guess, one thing at a time. You can look at some of these big identity and access management systems. How do you see people the best approach to short and long-term vision on that?
On multi-factor authentication?
And just, how does that, how do you make sure that, obviously, probably some systems are going to require different types. How do you make it more of a strategic initiative versus a tactical?
So, I do think that everybody should use multi-factor authentication where they can to secure critical data and systems. And whenever you go to implement MFA, you'll find out that the most popular MFA solution, Microsoft Authenticator, Google Authenticator, RSA Secure IDs, YubiKeys, whatever, they don't protect 2% of the world's websites and services and applications. Like you have to figure out what you want to protect, and then you try to pick a solution that will protect those critical things. And I say a lot of people will pick a single sign-on solution, like One Login or Okta. And then you figure out, and they're only going to work with a handful of MFA solutions. So you're kind of pigeonholed into what you're allowed to do. But let me say this. I'm getting ready to write an article. It'll be coming out next week. I've been writing about it for a couple of months. And that is, if you're going to go, if you're not in MFA today, or even if you are, but you consider an MFA, you should pick a solution that is not easily phishable. 80-90% of MFA is easily phishable, meaning I, as an attacker, can send you an email, and if I trick you to clicking on the link, I get by your MFA. And let me say, it isn't just me. The US government has said this now twice, both in 2021 and 2022, and executive order clarifications. They literally have this language going, do not use easily phishable MFA, which includes SMS-based, voice call-based, push-based, one-time codes. As soon as they said one-time codes, it's got to knock you off your seat, because that is the majority. That and SMS are pretty much the solutions today.
Right.
And let me say, the U.S. government is not known for being on the forefront of trends. Right. If the U.S. government is telling you to do something in official paperwork, they have got data for years and are basically being forced by the pain to tell people to do something. So that's what I'll say is, if you're going to MFA, and I'm going to write an article coming out soon, next week. I don't know when this airs, but I'm going to tell people, if you're going to go to MFA, try to use one of the solutions that is not easily phishable. And unfortunately, the vast majority of it's easily phishable, but there are solutions out there that are not easily phishable. And what I would tell viewers, if you're going to pick MFA, ask the MFA vendor or yourself, is there a way that someone could send you an email and then you get tricked into putting in the code or whatever it might be, or plugging in the key or whatever, that it could then go to a fake website, then to the real website, what's called a man-in-the-middle proxy. Right. And the vast majority of MFA is susceptible to that trick. And the better forms, and again, there's a lot of them out there, but it's interesting. It's just being able to concentrate. Like Microsoft and Google sell the stuff that's more secure and not as easily phishable, but it's not what they mostly sell. Same thing with Duo and other things, or a YubiKey. YubiKey from Yubico, the little USB keys, whatever. They sell a version. I think the most popular version, you can buy it and use it any way you want, but one of the same key could be used with what's called FIDO. FIDO is one of the things that's not easily phishable. FIDO, fast identity online or something. But those types of solutions are one of the types that are not easily phishable. So the YubiKey can actually be activated in FIDO, non-FIDO mode. And what I would encourage people is, well, activate the FIDO mode, because then it's not easily phishable. So sometimes it's just being educated, being aware of the issue, so that you can enable a feature set with the MFA that you buy that makes it less likely to be compromised or bypassed.
So is there any more, you said you had an article coming out on some of that, update your kind of the last book, I guess? How the
Yeah,
world's
it's good.
changed a
Yeah,
little
so
bit.
it's going to be a two-part article. The first part is going to be don't use easily phishable MFA, and then I'm going to follow it with here's the MFA that I like, and I'm going to try to list every MFA solution that is not easily phishable. And it was interesting because I went to a authentication. I was a keynoter at a FIDO conference in Seattle last year called Authenticate. And there was a spokesperson from Microsoft, and they said, use MFA, any MFA, even weak MFA. And I think that's the wrong advice, because the majority reason why people are going to MFA is so that they can't be easily phished out of their password. But if you're going to an MFA that can be easily bypassed using the exact same trick, click on this fake link, then you're going to make people go through a lot of heartache to end up in the same position of vulnerability. And let me say, there's bots that are stealing people's MFA credentials by the millions. This isn't let me say again, US government doesn't recommend something because it's theoretically going to happen in the future. They're doing it because they have the data to show that it's occurring too much in the past. But it's a new mindset. Like most people, don't know it. Most people don't even know how easy your MFA solution can be phished or bypassed. And when I show them the Kevin Mitnick video, if you want to look it up, look up Kevin Mitnick MFA video. It's just the one with LinkedIn. LinkedIn's the most popular one. When the people see that, I look out in the audience and there's 99 people going.
Our pen testers, we have some, usually register domains about 6 months before we do a pen test, a very similar domain. And it's a very easy thing to pull off.
Yeah, and let me say, I used to love push-based authentication until I talked to your company. So I used to actually recommend push-based authentication as one of the secure methods I want. And then I was talking to your pen testers, and like, we blow by that. Like we're sitting outside of, I love the quote. I forget the guy that told, but like we're sitting outside of a New York City apartment building and we just hit all the buttons. There's somebody waiting on the pizza guy that's going to let us in. And then I started doing research. Yeah, it turns out like it's up to 30% of people when they're sent hey, is this you logging in? Will say yes when they're not logging in. And I don't know if it's an education problem or a deployment problem, but I've changed my mind on push-based authentication. I need to put a little asterisk and go, you need to appropriately educate your employees that if they're not logging in, they should say no and call IT security.
Right. No,
I didn't think we had to share that part. I thought it was kind of implicit.
I think there's kind of the way the brain works thing. If you're focused on something else, and you just kind of be you go into robot mode a little bit.
Yeah, in the pen test, I talked to some other pen testers, and they were like, "Yeah, we love it when we come across a client that's got push-based authentication." And let me say, it's really the push-based where you don't have. There's some push-based where you have to still put in a PIN or something, or do some type of login, and then you get the push.
Right.
That's good. It's the ones that it's single factor, and all they're asking you, they say, "Oh, well, the second factor is the phone," right? And then the MFA push is number 2. The reality is it's kind of like 1.5 factor. Right. And again, if they were required to actually put in something to go, okay, now I'm logging in at this time. I think if they go, oh, I'm not putting in the factor, what's this? Maybe there'd be some disconnect that would make them see it better.